This is Inside the Game, where passion meets precision. Jonathan Turner, Nathan Wangler, and John Natale are your hosts, breaking down every goal, every controversy, every match that matters. From the heart of American soccer to the global stage. No fluff, just football. Weekdays at 9 a.m. live on YouTube, Roku TV, Facebook, Twitter, and all listening platforms.
Welcome to Inside the Game on the National Soccer Network. Now, here are your hosts, Jonathan Turner, Nathan Wangler, and John Natale.
I promise by Monday we will have a new intro. That is on the docket. But John Turner is here, though. He's just here in spirit. You know, he's around here somewhere. He's just not on screen, you know, but he's always around. He's always watching, right? He's like Big Brother. Did you ever read the book?
Good thing we had that call to arms yesterday to discuss that whole thing that we just missed.
Welcome back in, everybody. Inside the Game, another edition here on the National Soccer Network. Oh boy, good start to the morning there. Nate Wangler alongside John Natale and our good friend Peter. As always, the first comment, you can always rely on it. Welcome back, Peter. Man, it is a busy stretch of days around the soccer world. Good time to have a podcast, I'll tell you that much, because I think all the content, it's kind of writing itself between the Club World Cup and what we've seen with some of those upsets there. The MLS getting some important wins, maybe putting themselves on the map a little bit. And I saw a lot of that dialogue on social yesterday. You also look across the way, the United States men's national team got a victory over Saudi Arabia, 1-0. And John Natale, in watching it last night, or at least watching some of it, really loved what I saw. And not necessarily the fact that we won 1-0. The play was great. I thought they did great. But there was a little chippiness there. There was a little pushing and shoving. Guys were getting into it, and I love it. Personally, I love it because that shows that you care, all right? And that's the one thing we've been looking for all along. So a ton to get into there. Welcome back in, everybody. Got a lot of broadcasts. Just wanted to make sure to tell you, like, subscribe, follow the page. But, man, I'll leave it up to you as to how you want to address what's been going on the last couple of days. And obviously we can touch on the different things as we go, but it's been a wild couple of days in the soccer world.
It has. And something that you're going to get to later, and it's about how we mentioned oversaturation of things and how much is going on. And I think people really misconstrued what the word oversaturation means, or they just don't understand it. Mm-hmm. But I think what's going on now is because it's a world stage. That's why it's happening what's happening. The fact that you brought up MLS, which is great, but we're going back to the team that's really carrying the MLS on its back, and that's Miami. Mm-hmm. Huge win yesterday. Messi got a goal and got the go-ahead goal, and that's big for them, I think, because Seattle, they were on the pitch with Atletico Madrid, and it was just a bad game. LAFC will play tonight, but Inter, they played well. They played really well. And the fact that they had a draw in their first match, and now they have a good shot at getting out of that first group is pretty impressive for them. And I don't know if that's pushing the needle on MLS or not. Now, as you know, this Club Cup thing is I'm just fascinated by, absolutely fascinated by. And there was no short end to the billing of all those other upsets yesterday, and just teams that you just never expect to see here playing. There was an incident about Juventus. You may have seen it on social media. It almost made me choke on my own spit, but that's not the platform for this podcast. And I know you know what I'm talking about. But I guess it is what it is in that sense, that you probably get one shot to do that. And regardless of who's there, that you probably take it. So, you can search the Google machines and the Twitter machines to see what we're talking about. But I want to see so much more of that gold or that club cup. I really do. All the different teams that are on our soil that are showing top quality soccer. And then once that dwindles down, you're going to see even better soccer because people are really going to start ramping up like they have the US Open Cup, which will resume in a few weeks here. And it's the best of the best where it should be shown. And
Yep.
I just think it's really cool. It makes for a good change up in what we've been watching the past 3-4 months.
Yeah, and I think the matchups are great. I think the games so far have been, at least in the FIFA Club World Cup, have been refreshing. I realize there's a lot of different things going on. What I will say, though, is it's nice to see all the different stuff, right? To have international play, and then you're looking at the FIFA Club World Cup and what's going on there, and then you're looking at, these other things. The reason why I say, that win for, at least we can start off with the FIFA Club World Cup, because I do think it's interesting. And I know I put a prep sheet together. You and I always work on stuff coming into the show, but I think every now and again, when you have a day like you had yesterday, it's okay to switch things up and talk about a few different things, because I think with what's going on, it's important to address. And that win for, I realized that it was Messi, obviously, who made the difference in that game for Inter Miami. And that, obviously there's something to be said about that. Not an American-born player, but, talking about getting the MLS to that next level. But the MLS needed a signature win in this tournament. That was the part that I continue to come back to, is that in this tournament, they needed something to really put themselves on the map. And from what I see, anything that's good that I feel like happens to the MLS, because it is an American league, again, just puts more eyeballs on Major League Soccer, which in a lot of ways can change the landscape of soccer in the United States. I mean, what do you think an impact of just a win like that? Now, they have a pretty good chance of advancing out of that group, but from your perspective, if they continue to roll, if they continue to make it deeper, don't you think that has a larger impact at the end of the day?
I think at the end of the day it does, but you have to get further on.
Yeah.
I don't think their win significantly expands the landscape of MLS. It's just solely because of what Seattle and LAFC are doing.
Right.
There's 3 teams in it, and 2 have not done anything so far. Inter is in a different class in that league. And so I'd like to see if they get out of this group stage, which it looks like they will. I'd like to see what they do against that round of 16. Let's see them in that. See if they can advance to the round. If they get up there, then you start making a name for the league, because that's where, everybody's going to say, well, Inter Miami of the MLS. Inter Miami of Major League Soccer. Right now, they're the 3rd team in it. They're doing better than the other 2. And then the other 2 are just carrying the dead weight. So let's see how they progress through this. But great start. And I think it will start pushing that meter, so to speak, if they can advance to that round of 16 and possibly get to round of 8.
Right. And I think that's the important thing, too. Like, if you're going to have the tournament here, you got to make sure that you, at least one of your MLS sides, puts on a good performance. Because, again, to your point, the Seattle Sounders, they lost 3-1 the other day. You're right. Dead weight, I guess, is kind of the way that you described it. And that could very well how you could look at it. But I did wanted to touch on this other thing here really, really quickly, because I know that you and I have been focusing a lot on the United States men's national team. And again, our tone over the last few weeks has not been that of a positive one. I think that we're frustrated. I think that everybody else is frustrated with the product that we were seeing. But I was watching something really interesting on social last night. Landon Donovan, Tim Howard, they have their Unfiltered Soccer podcast. And there's multiple frames of references when it comes to talking on this show or talking anywhere else in the soccer space. The one thing I like to do is listen to the guys who are very much in that picture and have been on those teams and have been at the highest levels. Because not that I want to listen to how I should think or how I should talk and just be a copycat, but I think they're a good frame of reference when we talk about things that are going on in the soccer space, as they should be. And last night, it was Chris Richards who ended up making the difference in that game against Saudi Arabia. It was Berhalter, who I believe, was that his first cap with the national team, if I'm not mistaken? Maybe not. But he was the one that assisted off the set piece, ended up getting them that 1-0 win against Saudi Arabia. And like I was saying earlier, got into it a little bit, got into a scuffle, a little pushing and shoving. It just seemed like they had an edge last night. And again, a lot of people were kind of using the same word, gritty. JT and I had this conversation around the national team much, much earlier in this podcast. And again, it went back to the Nations League and how that went for this team. And it surrounded this because when they were playing in the Nations League, they had their best. A lot of the guys that have sat out for the Gold Cup were on that team for the Nations League tournament. Now, obviously didn't finish the job, this, that, or the other. And we had agreed that it's not good enough for this team to be where they were and losing 4 straight games. And at that point, that was just 2 straight losses for the squad. Between those 2 games, Switzerland and Trinidad and Tobago hadn't even happened yet. But JT went, would there ever be a benefit of just throwing out guys that are just trying to fight for a spot? Would that ever benefit the United States men's national team? Because if you think about last night, in a lot of ways, that was maybe our B team or our C team. That wasn't our A team. And we're curious because, and he brought this up, and I thought it was ingenious in a lot of ways, but put out guys who are fighting for an opportunity to stay at that level. Find guys that are willing to fight tooth and nail, that are going to be gritty, that are going to get after it. Again, we talked about guys like Diego Luna, talked about guys, some of the others that are on that team that are a part of that group that are trying to really separate themselves, that there may be a benefit to that. And the other side of this conversation is because they are doing that. And I think Mauricio Pochettino is really trying to put these guys in a position, at least the newer guys, the ones who are fighting tooth and nail just to have an opportunity to have a spot on the team. Those guys are out there playing, and they've won 2 straight games. If they continue to win more games, if they continue to make good impressions, there's always that risk. Whenever you turn down an opportunity to play for your national team, whenever you turn something like that away, you understand that it may, in one way or another, be risking your position. And we talked about the list of guys that were not involved in this Gold Cup. Gio Reyna, Weston McKennie, obviously Christian Pulisic is head of mind. It could come back to haunt them if these young guys continue to produce, because I think what I saw last night, John Natali, was a fight, was a grit, was a fire that was lit under this team that I haven't seen in a long, long time. And I don't know if it was Pochettino who did that. I don't know if it was the media who did that. But this young group of guys who really had nothing to lose, they went out there and, again, I don't like to swear on this show, but they busted ass. I mean, they were on top of Saudi Arabia from the word go. There's got to be a benefit to something like that. I mean, do you think some of those guys who sat out maybe are risking their spots?
With Pochettino, no.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't that one's always a hard pill for me to swallow, because I love the dirty, gritty, all 120% constant motor, Energizer Bunny, whatever other analogy we've used for a lifetime to describe those players that are always on all the time. You can't turn them off. But that can only get you so far. You see it a lot in baseball. You see those, he's a ball player. What exactly does that mean, he's a ball player? Because he's dirty. Well, that means just he tried diving for a ball and he missed it. That doesn't make him great.
Right.
And sometimes I think, especially in the soccer space, that you can push and shove, you can be aggressive, but sometimes that's a safety net for lack of skill. And when you're playing in pretty much a qualifier for next year, and we have mentioned that this is a warm-up, this is a tune-up for next year, and the U.S. is going to advance no matter what. And really already have with their 2 wins, which I don't want to take this away from them at all. I'm not trying to take down what they did yesterday. I'm not trying to take away what they did from Trinidad and Tobago. But next year, are they going to face Saudi Arabia and Trinidad and Tobago in the round of 16? Are they going to have the same personnel on the pitch that USA had yesterday? And just if you seriously, Nate, and you watched the game, I didn't get a chance to, but if you put that U.S. men's national team on the pitch right now versus Germany, would have the outcome been the same?
No, it wouldn't have been. More than likely, it would not have been. But what I will say, and again, you're right, and you can certainly build around that. And if you get those guys back, right, the McKennies, the Pulisic's of the world, you can work them in. Yunus Musa, just to name a few. You can work them in around those guys who have already gotten the international experience, the ones that were out there fighting and grinding last night. You can mix that in, and now you have an established base. You know, we were phrasing it for the longest time on this show as like it almost seemed like glorified tryouts in a way, like they were just mixing and matching along the lines just to figure out who they had. But that lineup last night, and by the way, it was Chris Richards' third cap, not his first cap, just to qualify that. But that was the same exact lineup that they had against Trinidad and Tobago. And that part surprised me a little bit because it seemed like a revolving door of players coming into it. Now you've had the same group for 2 straight matches. My guess is it'll probably be the same group for the next match. Is there some value, though, to those young players? Again, we talked about playing together. I know it's only been 2 matches, right? It's not quite to the extent as maybe some other countries, but that young group who, again, is hungry, they're getting after it. You know, I heard an interview from Diego Luna. I know we were talking about him in length yesterday, and, you know, he talked about how the need for them to show the country not only that grittiness and that fight, but to give them some level of hope. I think they're starting to acknowledge that in that locker room. And so to have the best players come back and sprinkle into that young group who's trying to establish kind of that baseline, do you think there's some value to that?
Yeah. And your hopes would be that the play of these younger players and who are just they're getting their first caps right off the bat here in this tournament is that it does push the vets or the guys that have been there, done that before. I think the guy who's benefited so far from this is Matt Freese, keeper from New York City, to put out 2 clean sheets. And keeper's kind of that odd position in that there is only one goal. It's such a specialized position, very similar to a quarterback in football. How many backup quarterbacks have gone on to take over starting roles and have done really well? Why? Because there's only one spot to put them. Right tackle can occasionally move to right guard. A guard could go to center. A wide receiver or a running back could go to an H-back. A tight end could go to wide receiver. We see that all the time. Same on the defensive side of the ball. Baseball is the same way. How many terms you hear utility player? Swiss Army knife, guys that can play every infield position, guys that can hit from the 1 hole down to the 4 hole, all that kind of stuff. You hear that all the time. LeBron, he's 6'9". He plays a guard. He plays shooting guard. He plays point guard. He can play power forward. He can play small forward. So you have all these guys that are multifaceted. But with a keeper, that's what you are. You make your bed when you decide to do that.
Right.
And so maybe Freese was behind. He was 2 or 3rd on the rotation. Now he's got 2 shutouts. And when a ball comes to the net, you have one objective. That's to stop it. And you have to make those reads. If the guy's right outside the 18 and you got to make a business decision to come out and or not, what do you do? And he's proven that he can do that. He can make those kind of chess move like anticipations to be one step ahead of an attacker or inside the box on a service piece from the corner that he goes up, he gets it and punches it out or whatnot. So I think the guy out of all of this that is going to benefit most from these 2 wins, as far as person who's not had a lot of caps under his belt, who had none going into that match against Trinidad and Tobago, is Matt Freese.
Yeah, and the truth is, a good goaltender can carry you a long, long way. I think in a lot of ways, the United States men's national team benefited from someone, and I was talking about the Unfiltered podcast, benefited from someone like Tim Howard being in that spot for the longest time. They knew what they were getting, and Howard in a lot of stretches was special. And so I think for this team, they knew that they had that. They had someone steady in that spot. And so I think for him, you're right. I mean, 2 straight clean sheets for him to prove that. Not only that, I think defensively, this American team is onto something, and it didn't look pretty against Panama. It certainly didn't look pretty against Canada. They were able to kind of thread the needle, and I'll mention them here in a second because I did have something else on our prep sheet that I wanted to mention because I think it's very interesting. What was in the news about that Canadian team? Obviously, they're participating in the Gold Cup as well, but it seems to me, at least, and maybe you feel this way, maybe you don't, but a good goaltender can make all of the difference in the world at the end of the day. He can really be a table setter for you. I mean, do you think he's someone that should be a long-term option for the U.S. men's national team?
I don't think that they actually know what their long-term option is, so he's definitely in the mix.
That's
I
fair.
don't think they have a guy set up to say, this is our number one. Hey, Matt, you're going to get in there for right now. But then when so-and-so comes back or so-and-so gets healthy, then it's going to be them.
Right.
So I don't even think they know where they are on that, in that position in the keeper. So the thing that I worry about, especially a young guy like him, who has now gone into the world stage and posted 2 clean sheets back to back, and he does a great job for New York City. But with the way the sporadic play of the team themselves, yes, you're right. Can a goalkeeper make all the difference in the world? Yes, it can. But if a keeper is constantly under fire from offense, one of those shots is eventually going to go in.
Right.
It's eventually going to break down. There's only so much a 6'2" keeper can cover in a frame that big. And when you have 4 blue jerseys and there's only 2 white ones, that ball is going to find the back of the net no matter how well you play. You can make 14 great saves, but you could also have 5 where you were helpless because it was 3v1 and your defense broke down in the back end of that neutral third. So that could be an issue coming up. But so far, as you mentioned, that the defense in these past 2 matches has done considerably well. I owe a lot of that to the goal scorer yesterday, Chris Richards.
Yeah.
The Crystal Palace from England, that he has the experience. He's the director back there, so to speak, not a older guy by his in any means, but the most experienced back there. So I think with this team is starting to, if you can say it after 2, they still got a long way to go, but is building that reputation of, all right, well, okay, we're kind of good in goal. Now where can we get up from the back line? All right, we've kind of got it here. Now showcase the middle. Go into the next game and work that midfield. See if you can get some a center attacking mid somewhere. Now Diego Luna, so to speak, send him up. Show that speed. Use that versatility that we've been talking about forever and a day with the athleticism and the speed that they have. And then push that up to the forwards. And it's, we're always talking about how do we fix this team? Well, maybe we just got to fix positions individually and then put it all together.
Yeah, and it's again, it's trying to put that all together. Taking a look at what they got coming up, obviously Haiti is coming up, final matchup in that group stage of the Gold Cup. Now, they've already advanced out of the group, so I mean, obviously a win there would be very important for the morale of this team. Then we got some friendlies after that, so Ireland, Japan, Ireland a few times, and play Canada as well. And again, I wanted to parlay into this next point by talking about that because I think that game on July the 2nd, it's got kind of a new layer to it. And then obviously we get into the rest of the Gold Cup games. But what's interesting to me about this, I didn't even add that. There we go. That's what I'm looking at here, John Natale. We got
Thank you.
Haiti, Ireland. Yes, you're very welcome. We got Japan. So that's a look at, you got some of the women's teams, obviously the men's team taking on Korea. So anyways, that was kind of the rundown of that. But
real quick, and you don't have to go back to the screen, but no, you don't have to go back to it. But I just noticed that there are, when you look at those friendlies coming up, you see Japan twice, you see Ireland twice, you see Korea in there, and you see Canada.
So
that's going to really push some buttons on far of the game that you have to play. Because let's say Ireland's not the most fleet of foot team out there. I mean, they walk like they've got pianos on their back and they don't move very fast at all. But what are they going to do? They're going to bully you around like there's no man's business. They're going to play as much Gaelic football as they can without actually holding on to the ball.
Right.
Japan and Korea, though, are completely the opposite. What do? They just want to run you out of the gym. That's all they want to do. Not the best skill sets in the world, but they just want to run. And that's going to test the endurance of that team. And can USA outrun them? I think those should be the matches where they got to be like, all right, this is where we have to decide who we're going to be. What's going to be more successful? Do we run? Do we try to but you bring it to the opposite way? Because against Ireland, if you try to beat them up, if you try to play physical, it's not going to work. It will not go in your favor, USA. I'm telling you this right now. Don't try to push around Ireland because they don't come in with teeth into those matches. And there's reason, because they fight each other. So don't try to get into that match. But if you're not around them, if you run away from them, that's your advantage. With Japan and Korea, maybe that's where you build it. Don't let them get by you. Maybe you got to give them a little shove here and there and body them up a little bit, get a little bit physical with them. Is that your MO there?
Right.
So you get a lot out of you're going to have to play two different styles. It's just which one you're going to play is going to be the way that Poach has to figure that out. Because if you're going to try to run with Japan and Korea, that's not going to work for you. Because you're just not as fat. You see how small they are. They're very small. Even though USA very fast and athletic, they're not as small and agile as those countries. Ireland, not as physical, much faster, but not as physical. They're going to come in, man. They're going to be ripping. You're going to say to every Irish player, you can go up a jersey size, right? They do make them a little larger. You can go one size up. So I think those will be more interesting for what sets the stage rather than what the final outcome of this Gold Cup is. Even though if they happen to make it through this Gold Cup and win, that's a great, and no one will deny that on any level, no matter how much we rip on them, criticize them, whatever. If they end up ultimately winning in that thing, or at least getting to the final, that'll be a huge boost for them. Huge.
Obviously, we're keeping a close eye on the other neighboring states and what they're doing in the Gold Cup as well. Just wanted to mention Canada. It was back on Tuesday. They actually played Honduras, beating them 6-0 in that game. I know we're celebrating, beating Trinidad and Tobago and obviously getting past Saudi Arabia. Now, Honduras, we've had our fair share of success against them, but I think 6-0 is pretty telling. And the one man that we've been focusing on when it comes to that team as it pertains to the U.S. men's national team is Jesse Marsch, the Michigan man. He's from here. When the job was up for grabs last year, obviously United States men's soccer passed over him, U.S. soccer, and went with Mauricio Pochettino. And the reason why I wanted to mention him yesterday was because he was in the news a little bit earlier this week, actually going into the Gold Cup. So we didn't actually talk about this. I didn't really see it until I saw it circulate in front of me yesterday. But two-time player for the United States men's national team, mid-2000s, 2007 and 2011. But going into the Gold Cup, had a statement, a quote, as he was talking to the media and, mentioned that I think some people brought up, and I'm not saying it directly here what the quote was, but they had brought up the United States men's national team, and he said, quote, I never want to coach the U.S. I never want to coach that team. Now, is that bitterness? Is that, I'm not quite sure what it is. Here's the exact quote. I want to make it clear I don't care about the U.S. team, and I never want to coach the U.S. national team. I'm making that clear right now. Obviously, because they're a co-host of the 2026 World Cup, and talking about the Unfiltered podcast, it was something that was mentioned yesterday, and actually not, is the State of the Union with Alexi Lalas. He goes, I don't believe that for a second. He goes, I think what it is that Jesse Marsch is bitter, is that he's upset that the United States did not give him an opportunity to be the coach of this team, being from this country, obviously having played for the United States men's national team in 2 separate years. I don't know, John Natali. I think it's an interesting conversation because I think with how bad the United States men's national team has been, now that we've won 2 games, everyone's like, see, it's happening. But it's Trinidad and Tobago and it's Saudi Arabia. Okay. So while I am excited and I am proud, and it did make me smile at least last night to see what the young dudes wearing the red, white, and blue were able to do. Again, does it really do a lot of convincing to the general American soccer fan that this team has arrived or that somehow they figured it out? I would say no. And I also think that when you have your best players sitting out for a stretch of time ahead of the World Cup, maybe that's an indication of what they think of coach. Now, again, this is all behind closed doors. I would have no way of saying. But did the United States miss out on an opportunity to get someone like Jesse Marsch, number one? And number two, is he being serious with this quote, or is there a little bit of bitterness in the undertones that he wasn't the man for the job when I think he probably wanted to, very much so, be the man for that job?
I don't want to put words in people's mouths or try to get this underlying reading, like be a psychologist to figure out, well, that's not what he meant. We don't know that. Yeah. What the guy says, everybody's going to take their own interpretation. So you're going to tell me a guy's going to say something, but then you know what he's really saying because you're somehow in his brain, and then can circulate that back to say, well, this is what he actually meant. All right. So you are Marsch, right? So you're actually him just moonlighting as so-and-so who said that quote. So I don't buy into that. The man says what he says, then he says, if no one will ever know except for him, right? We can analyze all day, but he's the only one that knows whether he would or not. As far as being the coach, I 100% think he should have been the coach. And this is why I say that, Nate, is we've been talking about how American coaches versus international coaches, everything. I brought up a point yesterday and you agreed with me, and we're going to carry in today. So it's a great transition to it. But when you see international players on a pitch and they're playing with American players, you can sense a level of frustration. Or even if you see higher quality American players with players that may not be that great, you see levels of frustration. I think right now with what we got, there's levels of frustration. And that does have to go to a great point that you just made about saying that a lot of these veteran players that aren't there right now sitting out, I don't think that has anything to do with that they're sitting out. Used an example yesterday, Weston McKennie. He's there. He's playing. He played yesterday in Washington, D.C. or 2 days ago. He played on the soil, just wasn't for his national team. It was for Juventus, which is astounding to me. I just think it adds that whole drama to everything. And people still aren't talking about that. They're still talking about Pulisic and Landon Donovan. No one's talking about Weston McKennie. He's just over here. We won 5-0, and I'm not wearing the red, white, and blue. Mm-hmm. He did it in that song too. But if you have an American coach, and we have driven this point home, we're going to bury it until it's knee deep in the sand, that we're never going to get to the level that these international teams are. Never. There's not enough training. There's not enough resources. They don't play with each other enough. There's no continuity. There's no chemistry. There's no place where they can all play together through 3 or 4 years and then come together and say, all right, this is the 11 we've had on the field for the past 2 years. Now let's show what we're going to do. It's never going to happen. However, coaches, great coaches, read the room. And this goes back to what you said earlier about guys who are gritty, tough, or whatever. A guy like Marsh, he'd know his talent, but he'd also say, you know what? I could put the 11 best skilled players on this pitch at one time, but only 6 of them really get along and know how to play with each other. There's 6 of them that are all individualistic. They're just going to try to play the ball at their feet, try to split 2-3 defenders at a time, and they're going to get stoned. They may get through every 5 tries, but it's not going to be consistent. However, if I get player A to player B to player C and make crisp passes that they've been doing since they were yay high at 5 years old, and they can do that and generate some momentum, generate some offense, get it ahead to one of those more skilled players in open space, there you go. It's just reading your audience. And Pochettino, he just thinks that all 11 guys have to be of international caliber, that they have to be superstars, that he has to find those elite 11 that are somehow, some way going to come together miraculously after playing by the time the World Cup rolls around, it'll be 9-10 matches that they play or something like that, maybe 12. And all of a sudden the World Cup, they're just going to, we're here. We're wearing the red, white, and blue. We're playing stripes. We're wearing Old Glory. We're going to take it to the streets. No, you're not. Because you don't have the 11 best fit players for your team. You may have the 11 best that you think in your head skill-wise, but that's not always necessarily the case. You have to have a gritty player in there. You have to. Nate, you see it all the time in baseball. You go up and down the Tigers lineups many moon ago. Miguel Cabrera was like the standout player, but you had a bunch of ragtag guys behind him. Now it's kind of the same thing. A lot of people, with the exception of Tariq Skubal, if you ask someone to give you the first batting 9 of the Detroit Tigers, how many people you think could rattle off that first 9?
Accurately, not many.
Yeah, not many. Go back to last year, the Guardians. Nobody picked them to finish higher than 3rd in the AL Central, and they got to the ALCS. And they didn't have the same lineup twice, I think, for 162 games. It got me confused, and I'm a fan. Baseball, it's kind of different because it is individualistic, but if you hit a shot to right, and you know as a second baseman that you have to be in the right spot at the right time because you know the tendencies of your right fielder, you could either stand back or you have to move up because he doesn't have the strongest arm, or if he's got an arm like Aaron Judge, you can move back a little bit. But those are just things you understand, and football's the same way. The Kansas City Chiefs don't have, and I'll die on this hill, they don't have the strongest roster out there. They just have a quarterback in Patrick Mahomes who knows the crap out of his team. Yeah. He knows where people are going to go. He knows where people are going to be. Jalen Hurts is the same way. I mean, Saquon Barkley's phenomenal. A.J. Brown is phenomenal. But really, who else is on that team outside of those 3 who's a skilled player? Now, his linemen are 7'9", 800 pounds, and are brick crap houses. But you see what I'm saying? Like, those coaches are going to know their personnel because they are American. They're going to know who they are. They're not going to try to put out there who they think they should be. Mm-hmm. That was pretty profound.
That's deep, man. They cut deep.
I had to write that one down. Where's ChatGPT when you need it?
Yeah, and what I will say, and it is an interesting point. I even thought about this the other day. You know, I think there is something to be said about whether or not you are from the United States. Okay, to be a player manager is important. To be a manager that you can come into, you can walk into the room and you understand exactly what it is that you're getting into. And he's someone who's going to fight for you. He's someone who's going to be in your ear, but he's also someone that is constantly going to keep you accountable. someone that you want to play for is really important, and I even think about, like the minor league team that I'm with, even just a season ago, we had, or 2 seasons ago, we had a Cuban manager, and, maybe the English wasn't all there, but the energy was there. The passion was there. How much he cared was there. His players were willing to die on a hill for the guy. There wasn't a bad bone anywhere when it came to him. Now, is he from here? No, absolutely not. I mean, defected from Cuba, great story, everything. Brian Payne used to play for those old Tigers teams that you were mentioning about, but he was someone that the players, again, would just rally around. He created the certain hunger in the locker room, and again, the United States will have, more than likely, if they get to the semifinal of the Gold Cup, will be on a crash course with this Canadian team if they're able to control their groups. Now, Canada has Argentina in their group, but they have Curacao coming up. So long as they win that game, they will advance out of the group. And like I said, there is an off chance that they could face off against this United States men's national team. And, part of those quotes that I was talking about, there's another one that he dropped in an interview with Fox Sports, said not one guy called me and said, "Coach, I don't know. It's been a long year. Maybe I don't come to the Gold Cup." Not one guy. Quote. That's what Jesse Marsh said. Not even close to that conversation. So it's and they haven't won it since 2000. So I think sometimes when you go through those stretches of just not winning for the longest time, maybe that's what creates that hunger. Maybe because the United States has had so much success in the Gold Cup that maybe they just don't see the importance in it. But I do think it's creating an interesting dynamic between Canada and ourselves. And I know the big rivalry, internationally speaking, has always been us and Mexico. But with him saying those things, it's creating a little bit of tension between the U.S. and Canada. And I hate to say it, but it just seems like that Canadian group seems like a grittier group right now.
Well, I don't think tension between Canada and U.S. that it's just solely soccer.
Yeah. Well,
it's building on other things.
We can talk about,
we're good on that. I mean,
hockey, economics, that. All that,
Yeah, we had that going for a little bit. But honestly, Nate, at the end of the day, doesn't it benefit everybody though? That's what you want to see. You want to see where they're going to take it to the field in order to settle things.
Yeah.
Not former players ducking on new players and everybody going back and forth about this person's doing that person's doing that. The people in question who had brought up Marsh in the first place are former players and that don't have, I'm not going to say, but probably it's at that point, it's my pride of being a member or a U.S. American citizen versus a Canadian. I think that's where a big separation happens. You talk about pride and, he wouldn't take the, well, if you weren't just standing down pat that you bleed red, white, and blue, then I don't think we're having this conversation either. Because you don't think any other coach in the world is saying, I don't want to coach U.S. men's soccer. I don't think that even the worst club teams would be like, I don't want anything to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
And so with him saying that, if he doesn't want to, but he's like, I here's what I want to do. I want to put your 11 versus my 11 on the pitch and let's settle this the old fashioned way. I'd love to see that. And so would everybody else, because there's that little confrontation brewing, that little rivalry brewing, and that could expand it. It doesn't hurt that USA and Mexico have a great rivalry, but why can't you have two? Boom, up north, boom, down south. We're right smack dab in the middle. If you want to be controllers of this whole soccer landscape, then beat us. And right now, Mexico is one, and you'd have to jockey who's two between Canada and USA. So someone's got to come out of that, and then you go from there. So I think for the sport in general and just for North American soccer, let's just call it that, I think it's extremely healthy what's going on.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and I just like the dynamic of the United States and Canada. I mean, we had that obviously in hockey, and that was amazing to see. And the United States is catching up quickly. I mean, quickly catching up.
Tell me in that tournament that they had, World Cup for hockey when the
Mhm.
USA beat Canada, and everybody was like, "Oh yeah, Canada sucks. Blah, blah. It's not ham. It's not Canadian bacon. It's just ham, you idiots." Coming out with all that stuff, and then Canada was like, "All right, let's just play." And then
Uh-huh.
they got absolutely whooped. Canada's like, we're done with this. Get out of here." That was such a eat your shorts moment. But anyway, I remember that USA thought they had the upper hand when the game didn't matter that much, and then Canada's like, "All right, let's play for the chips. Let's put everything on the table and let's see what you come with." And
I don't know if I'd say they got whooped, man. It was a
hey,
3-2 game. We
I
outshot
mean,
them 33-27. I get it.
I
I get it.
know, but
I
at the
get
end
it.
of the day,
I
who
get it.
scoreboard last, and it was the old Maple Leaf.
Oh yeah. No, and they still, I mean, they still have the edge, obviously, internationally. They're still tops. A lot of the younger, the U20s of the world, it's crazy to see how quickly the United States is catching up. And
Well,
that wasn't even a
but
conversation for the longest time. It
no,
was.
and
Yeah.
where you have to give the USA soccer, or not soccer, but hockey credit is look at your past two champions. We didn't even congratulate your Florida Panthers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Back
Congrats.
to back. I mean, when was the last time a Canadian team won the Stanley Cup?
The 90s, I believe.
It's been a
Late
long
90s.
time.
Yep.
Long time.
Yep. So yeah, I was not that I was hoping Edmonton would win it. Again, I've made this point earlier. Just something about a team from Florida playing hockey, winning championships, just not sit well with me. Okay.
Florida is probably the strongest hockey
Yo,
state in the United States.
No.
Tampa
Come
Bay's,
on.
Tampa Bay's always good.
Minnesota could be its own hockey country.
But there's only one team.
That's true. That's true.
Florida's got two. They got the Lightning, who have won a Stanley Cup, and the Florida Panthers won 2 in a row.
They don't do hockey down there. They could go to the beach or something. All right, leave hockey.
No,
to
they
us.
turn that water to ice, and they rule it.
With an iron fist.
That's right.
But yeah, back-to-back Cup champions. It's funny. My broadcast coach David Brody that I talk to sometimes. He's a Florida guy, and he was talking about potentially going to that Stanley Cup game, and asking himself if he would bite the bullet for ticket prices. I think and these are like decent seats. These aren't like even the best seats. I think they were like $1,600 a ticket.
A lot of money.
Or something. Just disgusting. But yeah,
like
man.
The NBA Finals.
Oh, congrats to them. But I wanted to Peter says Florida does not have ice, only ice in the fridge.
Oh, but that ice is cool. It's cool and gold and comes in the form of a big cup.
In a couple of different buildings, they do have ice. They've intentionally made ice. But I wanted to add this in. I know normally we open up with this, but I actually wanted to close with this because I feel like our question, our outside of soccer question, I had mentioned fast food on the list. I don't think that's really all that necessary. I want to get into the good stuff. And the reason being is because we got one Chef Duffy joining us on Monday, kind of previewing this episode that we got coming up. Chef, dad, and consultant, also on-air personality. You were talking about that a little bit, John Natale. Brian Duffy, traveler personality. He's got a great social media presence. Just taking a look at his website here. So a bar and restaurant consultant. Also has a podcast, his own podcast, Duffified Live.
Yep.
Duffified approved. So he's going to be a great guest on our show. And just to add to the list of other really good guests that we've had in the first 100, at going into the second 100, you could certainly say that he's our man. But it's going to be a really interesting conversation. And Natalia, you talked a little bit about how you've gotten to talk to him before. What are you most excited about coming up on Monday and getting to chat with him?
Well, first, he's from Philadelphia. So you talk about unfiltered with Landon Donovan and Tim Howard. just
Billy boy.
Be prepared.
Yeah.
Just be prepared. But Brian's he's such a humble guy. Being from Philly, he's a huge soccer guy. Been playing since he was yay high, 4 years old. He's a rugby guy too. It's just one of those things where, I mean, right now he gets a good vibe that what's going on with the Club Cup because of the games that are going to be playing at Lincoln Financial. So he's going to be around that scene. He's got first place Philadelphia SC in his backyard. Get the vibe on how does the city view that coming off of a Super Bowl championship? Are people even talking about Philadelphia SC and how he thinks about the U.S. men's national team? What he thinks about the women's national team, and it's crap. I mean, you don't think we're going to go after some tailgating recipes for the World Cup next year? Come on.
Right.
The man just had a custom over-the-shoulder grill built for him that he just goes out to random places and starts cooking right in front of his gutter just for people. Come on.
See, this is why I get into JT a little bit about us being on site, because I need to see Brian Duffy at the next game that I call, because I need to take a stop by, man. I need some brisket or whatever the heck else he's making. Because
did you see that burger that he had in his hand in that opening screenshot?
I'm telling you what.
I don't know if that's corned beef or the pastrami on top with the fried onions. Good gravy.
Yep.
Starting to drool a little bit down the right side of the mouth.
Good stuff.
But no, but it's gonna be an awesome show. He's gonna bring a little bit of everything to the table, and it's gonna be wild. So make sure you tune in on Monday for that.
So we got him coming up. We also got Tim Sinclair will be back on the show next week alongside Jamie Gilbert of FC Pride Elite. Two guys getting to talk about maybe some common interests. You know, Jamie's a big Chicago fan, and obviously Tim's already been on our show, the Mr. Voice of everything in the city of Chicago. So it's always funny having those two on.
Well, big news for Tim as well is that Chicago Fire announcing they're putting together a whole new stadium up there in Chicago for the Fire. So it'll be interesting to get his thoughts on that. Jamie Gilbert having his Chelsea club doing well. I think they play tonight, I believe, and they start off 2-0 against LAFC. So that'll be interesting to see where they stand by the time they'll probably advance to the round of 16 by the time he gets on. And then he can talk about what England looks like as far as their national team is concerned, what he still thinks about what he's seen at the men's national team. So, yeah, we've got him booked, man. And then I had sent a message to you yesterday. He's on vacation next week, but Rafa Brito Hernandez, or known as the mayor in the world of broadcasting, not just he's the bilingual radio personality for my Cleveland Cavaliers. However, the only broadcaster in the United States to do the World Series, to do NBA Finals, to do the NCAA Final Four, all in Spanish.
Wow.
How cool is that? And he's going to be here, and he's a big soccer guy, too. Big soccer guy. So you know what the Latino influence that's happening both on the Gold Cup and the Club Cup stage is he's going to have a few things to say. So we got him stacked, man.
Wow. Yeah.
Just like your Culver's pub burger. I got some stuff on it. Speaking of fast food,
yeah,
have some stuff. Yeah, a couple items on it.
It's stacked. So just giving you guys a look at what we got coming up, but obviously we appreciate you stopping by. Only got just over 5 minutes here of this episode left. Again, make sure you like, subscribe, follow along with the show. Even on social media, we'll take the opportunity to look at your comments. I know we got a billion of them. Probably get to a mailbag segment at some point next week, but wanted to cap it all off with this because I know we like to maybe loosen up with the question that's not soccer related. Again, normally to get us into the show, but since we're going out of the show, we can work it in now. John Natali, I have a very interesting question. Since we brought up Brian Duffy, again, I was going to talk about fast food, but I feel like we should talk about some better stuff. Top 3 restaurants all time. Go.
All time restaurants, huh?
That you've been to.
That I've been to. Number 1, Jack Stack, Kansas City, Missouri, barbecue place.
Okay.
Number 1. Number 2, I'm going to have to go with the Old Spaghetti Warehouse in the flats of downtown Cleveland, Ohio for number 2, the best Italian food I've ever had. And now, just want to read, because there are people say, the Old Spaghetti Warehouse, the chain? No. This was the Spaghetti Warehouse. It was this rink-a-dink building. You'd be scared. You had to go in there with an armored car and a SWAT team in order to get through the area, in order to get to this place. But you had Nona in the back cooking the meatballs right off the stove, and Just, oh my God, it was a 15-layer lasagna, my friend. 15-layer lasagna. And then they capped it off by putting the little Italian flag on top. Made me proud. Third? Oh my gosh. How about you give me two and let me tinkle on the third, because I don't really know.
All right, I'll start off with this. Highlands, Detroit. So it used to be at the top of the GM building in Detroit. Now, I don't know if it's still there or not. I don't know if it's still operational. I know that building is in different hands now, but
Peter. Sorry.
Man, he's just dropping in one after another. The Bucky's biscuit sandwich, that I can say I've never actually tried before. You didn't like this? You didn't like this selection?
No. All that you look forward to Ponderosa with the Andes mints that you got at the end, the chocolate mints. That was the only benefit to going to Ponderosa.
Maybe
it's like chewing a shoe.
Highlands, Detroit, very good though. Man, I got.
What's the cuisine at Highlands? Is it kind of a
steak there.
Steakhouse?
Yeah. So yes, so they had some really good stuff. It kind of reminds me a lot of the second on my list, and this is a chain. All right, so y'all are probably going to be like, "Come on, man, you couldn't come up with anything more creative." Ruth Chris is out of this world, man. And the last time I went
over Morton's,
I've never been to Morton's, so that I can't say one way or the other. But the last time I went with a somewhat affluent person who was like, I got it, whatever you want. So I indulged in the Wagyu that night, and yeah, man, I mean, I envy the people who seemed like frequent flyers there. You kind of look around the room and you're like, yeah, I bet that guy comes here about every weekend or a couple of times a week. I know those people are here pretty often. It seems like everybody knows who they are. So it's nice to be a part of that tax bracket once in a while, even if it's just a couple of times. But
put on that Sunday's best.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where I was in that. But do you have a number one, John Natale?
I mean, a number three.
You're going to three.
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jack Stack barbecue in Kansas City. Oh my gosh.
Everybody. Okay.
And the last time, and here's why it's number one in my brain. You know, when I went to Jack Stack, I've been there one time in my life. Do you know what year that was? 1999.
Wow. Huh.
When I was playing baseball out in Kansas. I had a friend that went to Kansas Wesleyan University. His parents lived up in Lenexa, Kansas. We went and visited them, and they took us to Jack Stack. And boy, it has just resonated through me like wildfire. Now, have I ordered it online? Yes, I have. I have paid exorbitant amounts of money for the long distance DoorDash to have them deliver the top quality goods to my doorstep plenty of times. But that's how good it was. But with you know, Nate, I will treat you when you're here, and you can look this up. St. Elmo's Steakhouse. You may know that name, but is considered one of the, if not the top steakhouses in all of the nation. It sits here right in Indianapolis. And you will find people there. Peyton Manning goes in there all the time. Rick Carlisle goes in there all the time. Pacers go in there all the time. Colts. I mean, if you are anybody cream of the crop, you go in there. I got in there once. And I'm not a big steak guy, so I was thrown by the whole atmosphere. But boy, it's the shirt and tie, the water table service. They're mixing the salad at your table, the shrimp cocktail. They have sauces all across the racks on every supermarket here. You may be able to find them up there too. But it is just, if you're ever in Indianapolis, man, that's where we're going. I will treat you to say, I'll have to take out a second mortgage in order for us to go. But I
won't get the Wagyu this time, I promise.
No, you can get whatever you want. You'll just see me dancing on the street corner for change. Hello, my honey. Hello, my darling. Yeah. Hey, thank you. Got to cover the tip.
Your hat.
That's right. That's right. But no, St. Elmo's Steakhouse is, as the kids say it, the joint.
The joint, the spot. I will say this as my number one as we get ready to wrap this up.
Oh, you were going from bottom. Oh, okay.
Bottom top. This is an off-the-wall selection, but I am obsessed with seafood. I love seafood. If there's one thing moving south if I ever did that, that would be of great benefit to me because they have the best seafood around. Yeah, I get it. And a lot of people that don't really,
If you even say oysters or clam, I'm gonna.
Nope.
I'll
I'm not
never
going
come
there
back on this show.
I'm not going there. Not quite.
Not going with sea boogers. Are you?
I did try one. It's not my thing. But Doc's Seafood Shack and Oyster Bar in Orange Beach, Alabama. Yes. Now that might sound like the most podunk place you've ever heard of in your life. That might sound like food poisoning to a lot of people, but I got to give Doc some credit. Nope. No, we were okay. We got away with it. Some fried fish, but the hush puppies that they make at these places.
Wait, hush puppies aren't seafood.
Oh, I get it, but it's a complimentary dish, you know. But the corn balls they make are amazing. They're to die for.
Let me tell you about the best seafood I ever had. These hush puppies. Come on, man.
But Doc's, I mean, you got to give Doc some credit though. But Doc was the man. I think Doc was actually the one that made our meal too. So
man.
Doc was on the ones and twos. But great fried fish, great hush puppies. No, clams and oysters, not my thing, man.
Let me tell you about this place, Highlands, on top of the GM Center in Detroit. Their French fries were to die for. What?
It's like Brandt's Steakhouse here.
I love seafood. I will live and die. I will go south for seafood. But they had the best hush puppies. Oh,
no Long John Silver's. Not over here.
Woo!
But Highlands, Roots Chris.
I'll leave you on this note. We'll get out of here. The next time you're down to, what was it? Doc Brown's Back to the Future Grill. What was that called? Doc's
Seafood Shack and Oyster Bar.
Next time you're on your way down, stop at Lancaster's in Lancaster, North Carolina.
Okay.
If you want some hush puppies, all right?
All right.
Lancaster's in North Carolina. That'll do you good.
Is that also seafood too?
No, that's actual barbecue.
Oh, okay.
So the best barbecue in the world does not belong to Lancaster's because they have a phenomenal hush puppy. On the record.
The fish was great.
That's going to stick with me until Monday, man. I'm bringing that up to Duffy. I'm putting that in the notes. So, Brian, let me ask you something.
Do you make hush puppies?
Seafood?
That's the
important
thing.
Give me your top three. Here. So, hush puppies didn't make the list.
Oh, that's great.
That's good, Nate. That's a good, that'll get me through the weekend. Thank you, my friend.
Very welcome. That's another edition of Inside the Game. We will be back on Monday, 9 a.m. Again, talking about Brian Duffy will be joining us for that one. And here we go. We're going to have a quick moment of silence. 3, 2, 1. Am I good? Am I in the clear?
Oh, you got it there.
Yes. All right. Nate Wangler, John Natale on Inside the Game. We'll be back with you on Monday and a stacked lineup coming up. We're going this way with the podcast, continuing to add more stuff. We're actually releasing a video a little bit later today, previewing that talk with Brian Duffy. But again, that's coming up on Monday, so lock in. We'll be right back. But Nate Wangler, John Natale, we'll be back on Monday, another edition of Inside the Game.
Weekend, everybody.